Hello folks, it is time for some more hobby nightmares. It is Friday, it is glorious here in the UK. From what I understand, it is hotter and more sunny here right now than it is in Cyprus and Morocco. So, yeah, do with that what you will. For once, our American viewers and listeners will be feeling jealous of our weather, because it is absolutely glorious over here at the moment. As I've gotten older, when I was a kid, I used to love winter and autumn. I still love autumn for Halloween. That's basically it, right? When I was a kid, I used to love winter. It was my favourite time. Nowadays, with my joints and things, you know, I'm in my mid to late 30s. I'm ready for some sun. I enjoy sun. I enjoy heat. That's what I like. I like vitamin D. That's all for me. Thank you very much. So yeah, I don't know. Are you guys the same? I don't know. But anyway, let's start this batch of hobby nightmares off correctly with Revan, who says, hi there North, long time lurker, Patreon subscriber. Thank you very much, my friend. Thank you very much, Revan. That's really cool of you. Long time Patreon subscriber and first time writing into hobby nightmares. You can call me Revan, as in Darth Revan from KOTOR. Yes, I know. One of my favourite characters in fiction. Or James. Yes, that's my real name, but it's so common that there's still a level of anonymity there. Just a short nightmare from me about how my hobby became a nightmare for everybody else, my dad, to be precise. Okay? To set the scene, a bit of a backstory is in order. Like many others, I got into the hobby in 2020. I had been aware of 40k since I was about 11, but never really dived into it fully. A kid at my primary school back in 2004 would come in with a White Dwarf magazine regularly. I was, and still am, a massive Tolkien fan. Having watched The Lord of the Rings religiously at the cinema the previous year, I saw Return of the King about 5 times during its original cinema run. One day, this kid lent me his White Dwarf. I spent hours looking at the Middle-earth strategy battle game models. After 2 intro games at the Games Workshop closest to my grandparents, one as the Elves of Lothlorien and the other as Isengard, a staff member and I versus another staffer and another kid both times. That Christmas, I got the Mines of Moria starter set. What a result. But being a 12-year-old at the time with Asperger's, I never finished them. I put them together, sure. I played 1 game with them before they got placed in a drawer, only to see the light of day when I got rid of them at the age of 16 or 17. Stupid, I know. Jump forward to 2020, I am now aged 27. At the time, I was working part-time in a supermarket. I won't say which, but it's a more upscale one, and at a local bank. I was earning all this cash from 2 jobs, but couldn't spend it because all the fun places I had around me were closed. While perusing YouTube, I stumbled across Flash Gits and soon found their Furry Crusade series, and a flame of artistic inspiration that had lain dormant burst into life within me like Mount Vesuvius. I asked the guy I knew at the time, who was into 40k, if this was what Space Marines were like, and he told me, well, yeah, some of them. yeah, Black Templars, guys like that, yeah. After a week or so of research, I bit the bullet and took the plunge into the hobby for the second time. Initially buying the Recruit starter set for 9th and opting for Ultramarines. How original. He said that, not me, by the way, I'm not bitching at him. For my new Space Marines and Celtech for the Necrons. This has grown to about 2,000 points of Blueberries and around 1,500 points of Necrons. And, most recently, a Nemesis Claw kill team, with the intent to start a Night Lord's army. A lot of which, to my shame, is still unpainted. Now, I still live at home. I have one brother who got married back in June 2023, but had moved out a few years previously. After Nurgle's rot seemed to have settled, I, shall we say, commandeered my brother's old room for my new hobby space. I mean, the room was sitting practically empty and unused. What's a hobbyist meant to do? The future was bright, the future was orange. A+ for those who get that reference. Roll on February 2025. North, you may want to take a sip of Yorkshire tea, or if available, something stronger. Okay, let me just... Alright. My brother tells us that not me and his missus. My brother tells us that he and his missus are splitting up. Oh, I'm sorry for that. He came around soon after to explain properly, having only messaged in the family group chat before. Long story short, he's going to live back with us week on week and 1 week off, and thus he will need his old room back. Ruh-roh. I'm losing my hobby space, but some things are bigger than the hobby, and family is definitely one of them. So, I bow out and return to my brother's room to him. This is where the nightmare begins. So, because my brother needs his room back, I now need somewhere to store my hobby stuff. My room is too cluttered, so that's ruled out. I refused to use the shed in the garden, so I was left with the attic. Not ideal, but better than my miniatures potentially melting in the shed. So begins the process of moving my stuff into the loft. The plan is simple. I'm up in the attic, my dad passes stuff up to me, and I put it on a shelving unit. As I said, simple. What could go wrong? Everything is going swimmingly. Anything that needs to be put away has been, and we're now at the final item, the cutting mat. The star of the show. Up until this point, Dad has passed everything to me, but by now, we're both done with it and want to get on with our Saturday. One of us got sloppy. Dad, in his infinite wisdom, decides to just shove the cutting mat upwards with a good bit of oomph to slide it up to the loft for me to pick up. But what do they say about plans of mice and men? They often go awry. Dad places it against the ladder and pushes. The only thing is, the mat doesn't make it halfway and slides back towards my dad's face. Not only does it hit him in the face, it would have hit him in the eye. Thank Christ that my dad wears glasses. The mat hit the frame of his glasses and deflected into his eyebrow. The cutting mat lives up to his name. Oh my god. Oh my god. Dad goes down like a sack of spuds, clutching his face. I'm panicking. Dad's on his arse, his face in his hands. I do the only thing I can think of, the inevitable call of any child who knows something is wrong, but with no clue what to do. Mom! My god. I know you got Asperger's, dude, but how old are we? How old are we? You're in your 20s, right? Late 20s, right? I mean, yeah, I get it. I've done that a few times in my 20s as well. I can't blame you. And do you know what? I'm not going to blame you for living with your parents as well. Like, a lot of people be listening to this going, man, you're in your late 20s, get on with your... No. The world right now, I put it this way. Well, I lived at my parents' house, at my mother's house for... from the ages of... I came back... I finished university and I went straight into Games Workshop and I was there. And then I was at a hobby store and I was there. And then I went home to live at home because I had a job running a bar, running a pub, basically running a bar, and I'd do anything as long as it paid me. I didn't have to work too hard. So I went to live at home, and I was, how old was I? I must have been about 30, 31, right, something like that, 30, 31, and it sucked. I was meant to be there for a year or two. I ended up meeting somebody who I would be with for a while whilst I was there in America, and yeah, we started our plans for me to move over there. So I was only meant to be there until like early 2020. Then Nurgle's Rot happened, as you all know, and I was there for a bit longer. And I was made to feel pretty crappy for living with my mother for that time. Not that I had a choice, because you know, COVID and all that. But didn't matter. I was shamed for it. I was browbeaten for it, you know, guy in his 20s living with his mother, all that kind of thing. It just sucked. It really, really sucked. So I'm not going to have a go at you because it's only recently where more research has been done on my end. Like, should I really feel bad about that now that I'm moved out and like I'm paying my own way in the world and things? And no, I shouldn't have, because at the end of the day, and I've said this to my mother in the past as well, like, I fully appreciate, you know, living there and, you know, paid my way and all that, but I fully appreciate me being allowed to live there. But at the same time, you know, if the world wasn't such a screwed up place, I would be able to afford a house just like she could. At my age, she had a house. She had 2 kids in a house on 1 wage at my age. I can probably... Do you know what? Even the richest person I know, you know, around my age, is renting his house. He didn't buy. He's not got a mortgage. He's renting, right? He can't afford the lump sums of getting a mortgage, getting it on the go, and you know, he's renting. Which, you know, goes to show, doesn't it? You know, none of his own property, and it's a different world, my friend. We are on the way to cyberpunk dystopia where nobody owns anything apart from the megacorps. It's really strange how prescient cyberpunk was. You know, we are living in vanilla cyberpunk. Like, you know, we don't have the big massive towers or the robot arms. Well, we kind of do have robot arms, but we don't have any of the, you know, the really advanced stuff. But we do have all the mundane stuff. Corporations getting a hold of everything, and the world generally going to the shit because nobody can afford to live. You know, that's awesome. Anyway, moving on. At this point, we don't know where the actual impact in my dad's face is. Mum comes up and checks Dad over, and we find it's his eyebrow that's bleeding. The pain in his eye is from where his glasses were pushed back into his eye by the impact. North, I shit you not, his eyeball bled like a bitch for the rest of the day. Even at 9 PM that evening, it was still pissing blood. He now has a lovely scar on his eyebrow to show for it. Yeah, well, dude, it's not serious. If you get cut on your forehead, you will bleed like a bitch, but it's not serious. It's not. It generally clots over. Professional wrestlers actually cut themselves in their foreheads. Unless they do it like an idiot, it doesn't leave scars. And it pisses blood everywhere. And then it clots within, like, you know, it's supposed to clot within, like, a few minutes and stops. You know what I mean? I've actually seen wrestlers, like, bleeding or, like, their face is just red from, like, getting a whack on the forehead. And then by the end of the 40-minute match or whatever it is, yeah, you can see their face again. All the blood's gone, right? Because it stopped. It's clotted. Anyway, if you read this, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it. This is about the only 40k related nightmare other than the Hobby Nightmares. Other Hobby Nightmares mainly involve playing football or darts. I'm not sure if these would be a best fit for Hobby Nightmares. Yeah, send them in, man. I'd love to read them. But I'm more than happy to send them if you like. Yes, please do so. Anywho, sending my best to you and your family. Hope you have a good one. Revan James. Cheers, man. Awesome. Awesome stuff. Let's get into our next Hobby Nightmare, and it is titled Shadowrun Tomfoolery. This is the first Shadowrun one we've had for quite a while. It's quite a while. Okay. This guy, dude, you've said 3 different names. You've said 3 different names for me to call you. You've said, hey, Northern, it's my real name here, and you can call me Bob. And then at the end of the email, you sign off with Sam. I don't know what you're on about. Anyway, let's move on. He says, hey, Northern, it's something here, but you can call me Bob. All right, Bob. I thought I would write in about the latest campaign I ran. Not a nightmare, but I thought it could inspire others to try different things. To set the stage, this was way back in the time when Wizards of the Coast had just bought TSR. Oh my god, this is a long time ago. This was when I decided to leave Dungeons & Dragons, as I didn't much like the direction it was going in, and I didn't want to buy the new books. Now, the game for the campaign I'm going to talk about was Shadowrun. For those who don't know, Shadowrun is cyberpunk mixed with Tolkien and magic. It also has some corporate dystopia thrown in for fun. Yeah. A lot of people say it's used Tolkien in there. It's not, right? It has fantasy races in there. It's on Earth, right? It's on Earth. So you're in Seattle, you're in New York, you're in London. You know what I mean? And the actual setting itself is very, very, very clever. It's really clever. I've always said that cyberpunk is one of those settings that I look at and I get jealous, thinking, I wish I'd have just thought of writing that before they did, because it just sounds so fun. Anyway, in this particular campaign, we played with the Snake Eyes rule. Every time you rolled a critical failure, your character died. For example, if a runner was trying to sell some stolen goods and they rolled Snake Eyes during a persuasion check, they would die of a heart attack. Now, this did lead to a lot of deaths, so to speed up play, when a character died, their identical sibling would show up to take their place. Alright, I'm going to come out and say it. That's a really shitty rule. That's a shitty rule, because it doesn't do anything. Right? What you've done there, my friend, when you're writing rules for games, your rules need to have consequences, okay? If you introduce a rule to your game, and you know what's happened here? You've introduced this rule, people have died, and they've started complaining. I'm willing to bet you any money. People have started complaining, going, well, why did the dice just say I'm dead, and now I'm dead? That's stupid. even though they knew what they were getting into when they signed up, because you explained the rules to them, right? So what you've done, you've said, well, I can have my thing where everyone dies, but also your twin comes back and takes your place. You can have exactly the same character, but that last character in the story is now dead. That's lame as fuck. I have to be honest. That's just lame as fuck. Like I don't like it as a thing. Your rules need to have teeth and consequences. But, you know, if you're doing this in your game, explain to them what it does, and then say no. You create a new character, right? Have characters ready to go. That'd be a good thing. Have a menagerie of characters to choose from, and just select a new one. Anyway, this led to the second rule. All characters' names had the same starting length. I don't remember the length decided, but for example, if it was 3 letters, then only a name with 3 letters were allowed at the start. This was done every time someone died. They added a letter to the end of the name. At the end of the semester campaign, the player with the longest name got 3 ribs directly from me. Okay, alright, fair enough. Now this made for interesting dynamics in the game. Players wanted to die. They would put themselves in danger while trying to protect other players. I don't really remember the details as it was long ago now, but I do remember it being a lot of fun and not really a serious game, but a good way to go out and play tabletop RPGs. Well, I hope you like the concept, as it is something a bit different and fits well into the Shadowrun world of how easy it is to die in game. Alright, I don't really like the concept, no. I get that it's a nice casual game and you can play the game in any way you want. I probably wouldn't play at this table. It would just annoy me a little bit, because to be honest with you, I love dark role-playing. It's like one of the best things ever, you know, to be in like a dark world, and Shadowrun can do that. And if you play the Shadowrun RPGs, like, listen, Sam, Bob, whatever your name is, okay, you've got several different names. If you've not played them yet, play Shadowrun Returns, Shadowrun Dragonfall, and Shadowrun Hong Kong on PC. They are amazing games that really do tell you what the feel of Shadowrun is supposed to be like, right? Especially Dragonfall. The second one in the series is amazing. The third one has the most polish, but the second one has the best story. It's amazing. I will play it on stream eventually. They are 3 of my favourite games. Dude, play those games. If you want to know what Shadowrun's supposed to do, alright? Alright. Okay. He says, I have a question about 40k, alright? Why are the Tyranids a threat? Now my problem is that the Tyranids have bioships and the Imperium have virus bombs that turn all biomass into goo. So why are the Tyranid higher fleets that have met the Imperium not been turned into goo ball in space, while the rest of the Tyranids run away bug screaming? Well, again, I think you're approaching 40k with the same blasé attitude that you've approached Shadowrun, right? Games and game systems and game settings have their own internal mechanics. A Tyranid hive ship, you have to remember, by the way, how big a Tyranid hive ship is. It dwarfs anything the Imperium has. Like, literally anything the Imperium has. And it has redundancies. A planet getting hit by a virus bomb can't adapt to the virus quickly enough, right? The Tyranids literally adapt in nanoseconds to infections and things like that. That's why Nurgle's rot doesn't really have any effect on them, you know? Because they adapt so quickly. If you hit them with a virus bomb, the bomb would go off, they'd go, ow, and then they'd adapt. Their ship would adapt and would get stronger. You don't want to hit a Tyranid hive ship with a virus bomb. Do you know why? Because that Tyranid all the Tyranids of that hive ship would now adapt an immunity to that disease. You know, that's not good. Tyranids are designed so that you have to get in close and personal and chop them apart with chainswords. You know, because glorious melee combat is the way to go. Or shoot their heads off with las cannons. You can't just have a workaround with Tyranids like that, because Games Workshop very cleverly designed them that way, right? They're designed that you have to fight them. One-on-one. You have to shoot them, you have to stab them. You can't do anything else. Right? Biological warfare does not work on Tyranids. There are parts, there are layers to the actual setting that tell you this as you go through the Tyranid lore and stuff, right? This is what I mean. I think you're approaching Shadowrun and 40k at a surface level. I would invite you to go play the Shadowrun games, my friend. My recommendation to you, go play the Shadowrun games. They're extremely cheap to go and buy. Go play them, right? Read up on some 40k lore. If you don't like the Tyranids, you might do once you start getting into their lore and actually reading what they do and they don't do, right? But anyway, let's move on to our next Hobby Nightmare. It is Cecil who has returned, and he says, "Greetings again, North. Cecil here again with the last part of my story and my start as a wargamer. It's been a while, so hopefully you remember the last parts of my story, but if not, it doesn't matter. Here is how 40k came to my aid." Okay, alright. I need you to do some... How do I put it? I need you to do some context here, right? I'm going to read this as is, but Cecil, you need to give me context. I can't remember all things that have happened, alright? Alright. I think things have been going pretty badly for you in life at this point, you know what I mean? From what I remember with you. And the hobby had come in and out, you know what I mean? But you were mainly not doing very well in life. Anyway, let's go. Things continued nearly unchanged for several months, and going to play at the Yu-Gi-Oh! Store started to become less and less exciting. It was one hell of a resource war, both in-game and outside of the game. Okay, yeah, I remember this now. So yeah, you found a new place to go and play your games, right? Yes, and it was Yu-Gi-Oh! Was the main thing you were going for, but you'd come across a lot of play to win at all costs bullshit, as you do with tabletop card games sometimes. All right, I'm with you. Around this time, I started going to my internship to finish my career, and that meant no candy or government income. I was again on allowance money. Fair enough. While my colleagues landed in accounting offices and some local government institutions, learning in the field with air conditioning and meeting people who might give them opportunities in the future, I ended up in an open field, counting dirty cages belonging to livestock and enjoying its pungent smell, all under the hot baking sun. But I just carried on anyway. Dude, what were you doing? What were you doing? This sounds horrible. It sounds like you picked the worst thing you could do from where you live. I want to be in the hot baking sun, surrounded by cow pats. That's what I want to do. Then one day at locals... oh, you mean the local tournament? Okay, then one day... This is what I mean when I get a Hobby Nightmare with no context. It's really annoying. Please give context. What's going on? I don't know what locals means. Then one day at a local tournament... Caesar, again, I don't know who that is. Okay, context. Then one day at the local tournament, Caesar gave me the news that new cards from my deck are coming in some months, and that should give me the needed power boost to play with an actual chance of winning. So I braced myself and started to save money for this new set. In my free time, I kept reading the lore of 40k, and while taking a closer look at the legions, something caught my attention. Marines wearing tough-looking suits. I always had a thing for industrial diesel punk style, so I took my time to read some more, and I discovered the Iron Warriors and their Primarch, Perturabo. North, I lost myself whilst reading through their lore, and sadly, also kind of found myself in it. I'm not going into details about my life, but I related to the arbitrary treatment, the underappreciation, the punishments, and all the bitterness it brings. Even Perturabo's more scanty antics. Okay. Do you know what? This has come up a lot with Iron Warriors. They are probably... People call them the most human legion. I disagree, right? It's an epiphany I've recently come to, right? Iron Warriors aren't human. People who have autism and difficulty being in social situations with others say that about Iron Warriors because they want to feel more human. That's going to get your hackles up, isn't it? Right? But I'm serious. And any guys with autism are probably nodding along going, yep. Right? Right? The reason why a lot of people say, well, Iron Warrior is the most human legion. No, they're not. They're bitter. They're angry, they're underappreciated. That's not the average human experience. It just isn't. It just isn't. Okay? I'd actually say probably Ultramarines, the standard Ultramarine, right, is probably human, right? You play the Space Marine 2 video game, those are human beings. Alright? They're Space Marines, so they're doing, you know, odd shit and things, you know, they're oh, brother, battle brother, you know, all that kind of stuff. They're warriors, but they're also, they bicker like humans, they have rivalries like humans, they have jealousies like humans, right? They want promotions. You know what I'm saying? The main conflict of that game starts from somebody saying to Gadriel, haha, he now has your, you know, what's his name? Captain Titus now has your command. Haha, right? That kind of a thing. They're human, man. Right? Being an Iron Warrior isn't human. You're in a very bad situation. Being an Iron Warrior now appeals to autistic folks, and quite rightly so. Right? I've never been diagnosed myself. Right? But I honestly do think I'm autistic. I'm on the spectrum somewhere. There are just certain, like, loud noises out of nowhere annoy the fucking shit out of me. Like, it just ruins my day. When I get a loud noise nearby, not even loud, but like, you know, like, all of a sudden, the irritation that's in my chest is unreasonable. I want to reach out and strangle that person. Like, I'm just like, you know, every time it happens. I don't deal well with change. I like my routine. If I have my routine, I'm set. I'm awesome. I'm loving life, right? And I like my routine. If somebody fucks with that, I don't get irate. I don't get violent or anything, but I'm in a bad mood. I'm annoyed, right? And if somebody makes plans with me, and then those plans suddenly change, sometimes I'm alright with that. And this is the horrible thing. Sometimes I'm fine. I'm like, yeah, okay, fine, go with the flow. I'm chill, right? But then sometimes I'm like, it ruins my day. Sometimes I'm just like, this is, you know, and I get really annoyed with it. So there are definitely, like, my mum definitely thinks I'm autistic. She's like, yeah, you're so autistic. Like, you're literally, it's like, cheers, mum. But, like, you know, she would know, though, right? She knows me better than most people, so she would know. So, yeah, I think I am on the spectrum somewhere, definitely. I think I'm more autistic than some of my autistic friends. I have friends who are autistic who have less tells than I do. You know what I mean? I've just never been diagnosed, really. So, it's what it is. So when I'm saying things like this, please don't take it as... A lot of people take it as me judging autistic people. No, I'm one of you. So, dude, like, I probably am more autistic than you. In a weird way. Right? I mean, you're wargamers, so probably not. But, like, in a weird way, I probably have certain tics that are worse than yours. So, you know, when I say that the Iron Warriors represent autistic people, and that's why people say, oh, they're so human. No, they're not. They're not. They're autistic. Right? I'm not saying you're subhuman before anyone starts. No. No. I'm saying they're not, you know, they don't represent the entirety of humanity. They represent autistic people. Right? That's why autistic people say, they're so human. No, they're not. They're not. Because we're not normal. Alright? We're not normal. And again, I know every autistic dude listening to this is nodding along sagely. Yes. You know, normal we are not. Give me my toy soldiers. Let me paint some more. Right? So yeah, I don't think they're the most human legion. I think that's a misnomer. But moving on. Just to mention some stuff, I have always tried to do a good job and excel at tasks both in school and at home because I would be treated way harsher than others if I failed in some way, and I never hear a thank you. It took me until college to learn proper manners of thanking and stuff. This is a big deal here, since I never heard those words and was expected to just do stuff immediately. I didn't thank anybody in exchange, thinking it was just natural. It all felt like a sudden wake-up call, and I started to really process all of this and what to do to get away from this path. When the new cards released, I went to the store with all the money I'd saved, only to find the player base trying to sell me the cards at a premium, knowing how much I wanted those. Later, my friend Caesar came and told me that the store had the cards, but since nobody wanted them, this was my chance to get them. When I reached the store owner and asked about the cards, he recognised me and also set a premium price more than twice at what I'd saved. North, you, as a former manager, will understand how the business is, and for that, I don't blame the owner. But this was just too opportunistic, and in that moment, I felt the weight of my experiences and realised I was a cog in the machine and not a community member. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But yeah, your community is also a piece of shit. Like, guys, tabletop card game players of the comment section, Brain Trust, I call on you, right? Is this normal? Do you regularly go to shops, go to stores, and have the prices double or treble depending on you know, how much people want these cards, or how much you, in particular, want a card, or a set of cards? Are they allowed to do that? You know? I don't know. I declined all offers and went home. I just quit Yu-Gi-Oh! Absolutely dejected. Some months later, I thought of purchasing some 40k minis and paint them as a little treat to myself, and vent some frustrations since this dude on YouTube, Northern Exile, mentioned how great painting was. When I saw the prices, with all my determination, I stood firm and said, nah. Not only was it expensive, but Iron Warriors were nowhere to be seen. Later I found out about a game cafe and a guy who did 3D printing. One thing led to another, and I also discovered that a player base existed in the cafe. I decided to jump in, thinking that 40k, as a board game, will have established and better rules and not a treadmill of changes and updates with meta chasing. Oh my sweet summer child. Now I'm a year into the tabletop, and so far I have liked it. I have a new job now, and I can get STLs and prints to kit bash all my heart desires. My main complaint about the game is that all the damned L-shaped terrain and secondary missions. I have little time, and these just hold games hostage. I've started to work out my temper and myself, but it will take a while to get rid of those years of bile, apathy and nihilism. Also, I'm planning on becoming an English teacher and did a course for it, which also helped me to improve. At first it was difficult, since being 22 and looking even younger makes it more complicated to be seen as a figure of authority, but a few classes in, and the teens I gave classes to already regard me as their professor. Thank you very much for reading, North, and I'm open to any advice, be it as a teacher or as a hobbyist, since given my age, few other adults took my concerns and troubles seriously. Cheers. No problem, Cecil. Good on you, man. And I'm glad you're becoming a teacher, and that you're actually making positive changes in life, dude. Absolutely well done to you. A huge shot on the arm for a lot of people listening to this, because a lot of people were listening to your life story, you know, and especially from previous episodes, and be like, yeah, this is kind of like me, you know. I have bile and apathy and nihilism from me growing up that I need to get past, and here you are, getting past it. Good on you, man. And becoming a teacher's awesome. Well done. And I love the fact that you're making positive changes. What I would do, I would inject some OPR into your life, man. Get some one-page rules in there. If you don't like L-shaped terrain, and you don't like secondaries and things, yeah, OPR's for you. It really is. And if you are in the UK, come to Exile Fest. You'll really enjoy it. You'll really get a lot out of it. Exile Fest is coming this June, for those of you who stuck around to the end of the video. 21st of June, if you're wanting to come down, make sure you send me an email to northernexileevents@gmail.com. That is northernexileevents@gmail.com, and you can come down to the tournament. You don't need to bring an army, you can just turn up and have a few beers if you want to. All up to you. Right, I love you a long time. I will speak to you over the weekend for a little bit of a streamy stream. Until then, have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll speak to you soon. Happy weekend. See ya. Bye now.